Everyone knows the bottle, but do you know the story behind it? Welcome to Behind the Bottle by Celia Maestri, where the real stories of the tequila world are finally poured out. From bold beginnings to industry secrets, it's time for a deeper sip into the lives behind the spirits. Pour a glass, take a seat. The story's just getting good.
Welcome to Behind the Bottle, Leandro.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure for me to interview you, being part of the company for such a short time, because you've been with us like 2.5 years.
Yeah, almost 3 years. Almost 3 years now.
Could you tell us a little bit before we met, who you are, where you're coming from, and what you used to work with?
Okay. I used to work for a glass company. I was one of the suppliers of Casa Maestri. I used to work as a customer service manager. I am from Venezuela, even though I've spent the last 10 years in Mexico, so I recently became Mexican now. So as a supplier, I met Mario Villanueva, the director of the distillery. And we made a good relation. I think we kind of shared values and, we liked each other. It was click from the very beginning, right? Because we would see each other in meetings and, he was very, I remember one of our first meetings, he was very like, I need answers, right? Because it would happen that, and part of the company where I was working for, it was like, let me check or let me see when I can do this production. So I remember my first meeting with Mario. It was like, I need someone to tell me what's going on. And then I remember telling Mario, trust me, I'll find out, and here's the answer. And I remember that was the first click, because that's when he started saying, okay, finally someone I can, rely on, finally someone I can trust. So I think that's how everything started. And then at some point, for personal reasons, I just decided to leave this company. And I remember at that point telling Mario, hey, I'm a free agent, I'm out of the company, I'm a free agent. And he did say, I will never forget this word. He did say, I know how you work. There might be something for you. Wait for me. I will talk to you in a few months. I remember in those times I was in Mexico, and then I moved to the US because that was part of like my family plan with my wife and children. We moved to Houston. We were, trying to make our path here in Houston. And it was, I think that was January 2022 when we talked. And then in May 2022, I received that call from Mario. And that's when he says, hey, there is an opportunity. And that's, I remember feeling like that's how things work in Casa Maestri, very fast. Because he called me on a Friday afternoon. It was like 2 p.m. And I was like, oh, I'm busy. So can we talk at 6 again? And he was like, okay. And then I was like, oh, probably he's not going to call me because he must be busy again. And then he did call me at 6 and he said, okay, so tomorrow morning, it was a Saturday, let's meet with Celia Maestri. And I was like, okay. And who's the owner? Oh, that was quick. and then the next day, Saturday morning, I remember the video call with you, with Mario. And that's when we started talking about my experience, what I used to do, blah, blah, blah. And I think it was just a matter of 2 or 3 weeks when we decided that I would go to the distillery to learn, to do my first month of training, and I've been here ever since. That's how I started. In Casa Maestri.
But then you went back to Mexico.
Yes, so the way it happened is that I went there just for a month, and then I came back here to Houston because the initial idea, I started as a project manager, and my role was
working
going
with
to be
Jose.
Exactly. It was working with Jose, helping him with everything he does because he sells internationally. So that's what I started learning. And then at some point, the position kind of got into, just to give you an example, I remember the first time Jose asked me, he was like, okay, you're going to help me. He was training me. And at some point he says, okay, find out with the distillery how much inventory we got of X brand. I don't remember, the dry goods. And I called the distillery and I was like, okay, I need this information. And then it was like a few days that, I got the information and there was something off there in terms of numbers. And I was like, okay. So for me, I remember thinking in that moment, like I could either tell Jose, oh, this is what we got. Sorry, it was wrong. Or for me, it was like, no, I would like to go there and I would like to see what's going on, how they provide information to get involved. And I think that's how the transition of the position went from being here as right hand of Jose to go to the distillery and start, evaluating procedures, seeing how we could improve, looking at the the whole supply chain. And that's how I got into, after 4 months with Jose. Then in December 2022, I remember I started my journey in Mexico in the distillery, and I started learning everything from scratch.
But before that, you were in charge of the two very important customers
Yes.
of ours, which is Total Wine and Mezcor.
Correct.
So
Correct.
anything that will go there, you were the customer service for them.
Exactly. I would pretty much oversee everything that had to do from the moment they place the PO until the bottle is on the shelf. I would be seeing everything to make sure that we would deliver on time, and also any kind of new project. Let's say that, for example, El Padrino, which is one of like the biggest volumes we sell to Total Wine, let's say that they wanted to come up with a new chocolate or a new flavor or whatever, I would see everything from the conception, from the label, the creative, the compliance, CRT, TTV, everything. So I was doing like both things, not only the project conception, but also making sure that once the project was completed, to make sure that, the bottle would safely arrive to the shelf on time as the customer expected.
And always in a rush because they had a very limited
Yes.
window. When they say yes, they want it for yesterday instead of tomorrow.
Which is something interesting, because my first impression when I started working with them is that they were not that used to forecasts and planning. I remember that. I mean, it was like the way it was then is we meet bi-weekly, all the team, but it was like, hey, we're gonna need this. We have this urgency. We need this rush of Blanco. We have this rush of Repo, right? And then I started thinking like, okay, but what if we start? We know that forecasts are not 100% accurate all the time. But it tells you a little bit how the market is and where we should go, especially because of suppliers. Because suppliers always, when you get customers telling you, hey, I need this in a rush, and then you go with a supplier, not always you get the fastest answer. So I think that was something that I think we started changing a little bit. We kind of made them or educated them into, let's work with forecasts, let's work with planning. And I think that's kind of like, made it easier to work with them and to give them a better service as well.
Yeah, but tell me, when after you went to the distillery, you start working there. When you arrived there, we were out of COVID and we were selling like crazy, keep up with the demand.
Yeah.
So with the challenges, when you went to Mexico, what the challenges you face into to get the things done on time?
Okay, so I think that the biggest challenge, and I remember it very well, it was my first impression was that I saw all these kind of people, all these departments working. The best way to put it is like a band where each instrument is playing its own musical notes, right? So I think the biggest challenge was to make them understand that a leader was needed in terms of having everybody going into the same goal, which is delivering on time to the. So just to give you examples, maybe the purchasing guy had everything ready, but then the person that, I don't know, prepares the liquids, it's like, hey, I'm not ready. I don't have the liquid ready yet, right? So, or maybe that person was ready, but maybe the person on the bottling was like, hey, there's this, I don't know, thing on the machine that I need to adapt for that bottle, so it's not ready yet, things like that. So I think the biggest challenge was to make sure that everybody understands, hey, we're a full team here, and our main goal, despite or regardless the specific problems you might have as an area, is to make sure that, call it Total Wine or any other client, gets their product with great quality on time. And that was, I cannot say it was easy, because at the beginning there is always resistance with change.
We were growing too fast.
Exactly. And I think coming from a glass company where I used to work before, I learned that, and then changing to Casa Maestri, I learned that it was something very common in the industry, because we were coming right out of pandemic. And basically the biggest thing that happened with the pandemic is that it made us all run, because it was such a rapid growth for which perhaps most of the companies were not ready to have a structure that would support that rapid growth, right? So we had to create a lot of things in the run. And I remember that in 2022, when I got to the distillery, that was my first impression. Like the same thing is happening as it was happening.
But
with the
delays sometimes from we as producers and bottlers or bottling our own brands. It's a lot of challenge because as well the suppliers never are on time. It's very typical in Mexico is mañana, mañana.
Yeah.
Mañana, mañana. The rest of the world is mañana is mañana.
Exactly.
You know.
And especially the American one, right? Like, you know, it happens in the world, but I remember American words like, you told me tomorrow, it's tomorrow, right? So I think that yeah, it's true. And the company where I was working for, that would happen. I mean, I was in charge of customer service, and I would get from my production team a date that then, you know, we could not deliver that day when I was working for that company. So something that part of the challenge and how we addressed it is that we needed to talk to customers, because it happens. I mean, you could implement planning and you can improve, but a very important thing is to be able, and that's where clients start trusting you more, to be able to tell clients in advance with sufficient anticipation is, this is what's going on, this is what's going to happen, or this might happen. And in the words of the same customers, they know that challenges arise, but we need to be informed, so we need to make good decisions. Otherwise, if you tell me, if I'm expecting a shipment on this date and the day before you tell me you're not going to have it ready, that's a huge problem. That will make me lose money, right? So
yeah. And customer service, high quality, great presentation has to be always there.
The top. Yeah.
So through the time that you've been with us, besides being a project manager or in charge of the two biggest accounts in the United States. What has been your experience traveling around the world? Because I know you've been at conventions as well.
Yes. I have visited Nigeria, India, Singapore. Those are the ones on the top of my head right now. Different markets, very different. It's funny because you get there for the first time and you bring all this know-how on how things are in USA, in Mexico, and how we're presenting things. And then you get there and it's like, you know, it's a whole different thing. I remember, for example, India is a tough market. I will never forget that one. When we were there, you would see people trying to, you know, reducing prices as much as possible, right? And we were already there with a strategy where prices were kind of like, hey, this is the lowest
tight.
We can do. Yeah, exactly. And for them, it's like, no, this is very high. We need to have it even lower than that. And I'm like, I mean, I remember my struggle in that specific convention is like, well, you're basically asking me to lose money. I cannot do business here, right? So it's what I saw is that definitely, you know, it's a universe in different parts of the world, but it allows you, I mean, it also gives you another perspective on the business, because it allows you to hear a lot of things. It allows you to, you know, to get to know different strategies in markets. Like, just to give you an example, we were in Nigeria last year and we have one of our clients there.
Before you go to Nigeria,
Yeah.
I want you to stop and tell us, behind the bottle,
Yeah.
you tequila tell when you arrive in India, what happened there?
What happened when I arrived to the convention or India?
No. When you arrived in there and somebody was going to pick you up.
Oh, okay. So when we arrived into India, someone was going to pick us up. Okay, I'm trying here to remember.
I'm laughing because that was something very strange that happened with the driver.
No. You mean Nigeria?
I was in Nigeria.
Yeah,
okay,
Nigeria.
So go to Nigeria.
Yeah, because I was thinking in India. No.
Okay, to Nigeria.
Oh man, this is
how Africa welcome you.
Yeah. So this is what happened. So we go to Nigeria and we are picked up by this driver, a Nigerian guy. And then, so we needed to buy some stuff for the convention the next day, right? Some details like, hey, we need to buy this. We go to this mall. He leaves us there. We go and we buy stuff and he's supposed to be waiting for us in the parking lot.
Okay.
So once we're done with the purchasing and everything, I'm like, I was with Evelyn. Evelyn went with me and was like, oh, Evelyn, do you have the phone of the driver? Because we have to go. Oh, okay, this is the phone, because she was looking at some
the number.
stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So I take the number. I start calling. No answer. 5 minutes. No answer. 10 minutes. No answer. 15 minutes. And I'm like, what's going on? Something's weird's going on. He's not picking up. Maybe he got lost or whatever. So I tell Evelyn, stay here, because she was in a store. And I'm like, I'll go out to the parking lot and I will look for the driver. 5 minutes I'm walking and then I see Evelyn behind me. Let's look for him. Like, we were both looking for him and we're running through the whole parking lot. I find a car and the driver is in there.
Yes.
And I'm like, what's going on?
He's taking a nap.
Yeah. And I see he's kind of laying down on his seat with his eyes closed, of course. And I'm like, what I found interesting is that his window was low, was not up. And I was like, okay. And obviously I thought he was sleeping. And I'm like, hey, I don't remember his name. But I started touching him. I was doing like this, like, hey, wake up. We're here. Hey, wake up. Hey, wake up. And that 1 minute, 2 minute, wake up. And I remember Evelyn like, what's wrong? And I'm like, that's what I'm trying to figure out. He's not answering. Like, wake up. But I hadn't seen, I saw his face and he was kind of sleepy, of course. But then when I start thinking something's off here.
Something's off.
Yeah.
We're laughing, but poor guy,
Yeah. And I start, I get closer and I kind of I try to see his face and his kind of eyelids kind of open. Like you could see the eyeball white. And I'm like, oh, no, he's not sleeping. What an unfortunate situation. But in the moment, now that I remember it, it was like, he's not sleeping. And I tell Evelyn, he's not sleeping. And she's like, what do you mean? She never touched him, of course. And I was like, what's going on? And I was like, and I remember it was after 10 minutes, I think, that I was like, oh man, he's not sleeping. Okay, who do we call here? Who do we call here? That was crazy. So the only people we had was kind of there was a guy there standing on the mall. Maybe he was security or I don't know what. And we're like, hey, tell me what to do. We have a guy there that apparently, I don't know if he's alive, if he's dead, I don't know what's going on. So he started calling the manager of the mall, and 5 minutes later, people start getting close to the place. Like a lot of, Nigerian people, guys from the street, everybody. And it was 5 minutes later, we were with a crowd around us. And everybody's like, in their own language. And we were like, I remember at some point I was like so focused in what we're going to do. But then at some point I do like this. And I'm like,
but you realized then that he was dead.
Yeah. It was clear. Then I remember the manager of the mall coming out and she was like, oh no, yeah, this guy's dead. And I'm like, okay, what are we going to do now? Man, that was, wow. One of the most shocking experiences in my life. That was.
The guy had, pick up them, took them to the mall.
Yes.
He had all the suitcases and everything from Casa Maestri in the car.
Yeah.
They went to buy whatever they forgot, to get ready for the next day for the convention.
Yep.
And a few minutes later, go back, and the guy was.
Yep. Yeah. And it was kind of, we remember that feeling that, because it's Nigeria, it's different rules, different policies. So, my first reaction was, let's not touch that guy.
Yeah, of course.
But my biggest concern was that our backpacks were inside the car. And I was like, I know I cannot touch him, but who's going to get my backpack with my laptop and all my information? But and it was weird because police officers never made it to the scene. And I would be asking everyone, like, where's the police? And they were like, oh no, they're on the other side of the city. So it would take about 3 hours for them to be here. And so what? And they were like, oh, you can take the car and you take him to the hospital. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that.
No, but tell what happened with the manager who came, which was very helpful.
Yeah. Thank God the manager, we explained her the situation. Yeah, that's the word. She was an angel, to be honest. She was very helpful. She told us kind of like, so this is how it, goes down here in Nigeria. This is how things happen. I will help you with my own, she had like a security guy in the mall with a car. And she was like, let's take him with you guys, of course, because you need to declare what happened and everything. So she took us all to the hospital. Yeah, unfortunately, when he made it there, he was declared dead as soon as he arrived. That was kind of a shocking moment. We were like, oh, wow. And because we were, in the beginning, we were like so laughing. But then obviously when we made it to the hospital, it was like, wow. The guy died. It's not like he was our super friend, of course, but, he had picked us up. He's a human being. He had been really nice. So for us, it was like, wow. And I remember after all that experience, how shocking it was. And of course, we were kind of nervous because we saw a lot of weird people and everything. Then.
And a different country.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That you go there, different country, and you say, now what happened with us? You know?
Yeah.
When you went to declare and the police and everything, they could be worse. So.
And that was one of my biggest concern. And I remember thinking in that moment, like when the manager, thank God, offered us, let's go to the hospital and we take you and whatever, I was like, thank God this manager came out, because I was thinking that the more we stay there, the more people would arrive, and who knows what can happen, because obviously a lot of curious people arrive and they can do whatever.
So
and
what
then,
the point is that was a little sour moment that happens behind the bottle. Tequila tells that we encounter with many situations, and in each one, in each country, it's always something different. But this is the stream, the stories that we have here. And of course, then you went to the convention. I'm sure was not the same, having the moment of, in your minds and whatever. I don't know how you guys went through the convention after that.
Right the next day, we were with a big smile on our faces, and we're like, try our tequilas. Try, this is, of course. But and I remember that Evelyn and I had that discussion at the end of the day. It's like, wow, I mean, it takes, some nerve to actually, after what had happened. And then the first day, with that attitude, like, yeah, sure, let's do this, whatever. But as you just said, that kind of things that happen behind the bottle, as you just said, I mean, things that people don't see, but it takes, you need to be very, when you believe in something and you like what you're doing, it is the only way in which the other day you can be with that face and doing what you did. Otherwise, you would be shocked, you would be affected by it.
Yeah, a lot of people maybe will say, I cannot go through this. I'm taking my airplane back and forget about my job and my thing. And, I'm not going to go through this, So we appreciate that you guys helped the people, the guy, even though he was dead, and that you went through professionally to the next, you're doing your job the way you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
So, being a more positive note, the question was that, like you said, going to different countries is a different way of living. We see a lot of poverty. You've seen a lot of different type of lifestyles. Yeah. But one thing in common is everybody's curious about tequila.
Everybody what? Oh, curious, yes.
Curious about tequila.
Yes.
And they love it, correct?
Yeah. Correct. You have to go with, it's obvious that as they don't know, they want to know, what the basic process is. So obviously they cannot differentiate what is a blanco from a repo, from an añejo. And it's fun because you start, you go from scratch and you go like, hey, so this is how you do it, the type of aging for repo, añejo, whatever. But it's definitely, and that's kind of what you get when you go to those places. It's definitely a drink that is booming all around the world. People have, is past those times in which, because you would expect in those places to find people that still thinks that, oh yeah, tequila, like those mariachis that drink it with lemon and salt, right? And that's, you do hear those comments from some people, but there is a big portion now in those countries that know that, hey, tequila has been refined. The tequila, you can sip it. It has different aromas, tasting notes. So you do get people that are kind of getting into this and diving into more information. And as you said, curious is the word. Like it's raising in all these countries. Yeah.
You're talking about mariachi. Could you tell us what you used to do before we met?
Yeah. So in Venezuela, as I said, I'm from Venezuela. In Venezuela, my daytime job when I was very young, 20 something, was English teacher. And then at night, I was a mariachi singer. For you to know, I would play the whole thing with the group of mariachi, with my charro suit and everything. So that's something that always got my attention since I was very young. Vicente Fernandez, Pedro Infante, all of that. And it's something that is very common in Latin America. In Latin America, we have this, we worship this culture. It's Mexican music, but not everybody sings it, right? And I remember my first time, I was like 22 years old, when I got into a karaoke bar and I took that microphone and everybody would clap. Everybody was like, wow, you do it well. I remember my first impression was like, oh, it's just a bunch of drunk people that don't know it. They don't know what they're saying, right? But I started picking up from there and it became kind of a habit, and I started singing, and then after a few years I was doing that, I was making money out of it in Venezuela. So it's interesting that after all these years I end up with you in Casa Maestri with all the traditions, with a bottle of Casa Maestri with all the traditions, what this brand represents.
What this brand represents?
So this brand represents all the cultures and traditions from Mexico. So you can see, for example, in the bottle, and it's very carefully sandblasted blasted. You can see that even the specific decorations represent what you can see in a mariachi suit, for example. You see the horse, which is very, common to cowboys, mariachis. So it's like that force that drives the culture and traditions from Mexico to all around the world, right? So when I found that, obviously it was appealing to me coming from that background. And I was like, oh yeah, this is something I can sell, of course. And that's what I enjoy when I go around the world. And I think that's why we had a very good match there, because it's something that I love even before coming to Mexico. And I run into this brand that represents that. And it's great. It's amazing.
And let me ask you, when I told you that with me, you will learn about everything and you will do anything that you can think of.
Yeah.
Did you never expect me to ask to sing in our first festival of the Day of the Dead last year?
Nope. I mean, well, obviously, and that is true. I think it was, I had like 2 months in the operation when I was still here in Houston. And those words I will never forget. We were, and I still remember we were on the table in your house. At the table, you were in front of me and you did say, I know you learned some things in your, in the supplier you were working for, but that is nothing compared to all the things you will learn here. Those words will stay in my mind forever, right? And then when all this started, to be totally honest with you, I did think at some point like, oh, this is a kind of brand where you can go all mariachi style. So I did think that perhaps I would be asked perhaps to dress like a charro. That I would
Which you
expect it.
did.
Which I did also.
In the conventions.
/ model / singers.
Even some of the people that are present here taking this podcast are being wearing mariachi.
Exactly. So to be honest, that I did expect, but maybe because I had like 10 years that I hadn't been on a stage and singing, at some point I thought, at some point I'm sure maybe they will ask me, but singing, that hadn't crossed my mind. And then Festival Tequila hasta los huesos, you're going to sing. I was like, wow. That was my reaction. Wow. Okay, let's do it. But it was fun, in the end, and I think I told you this via...
And you had a lot of fun and a lot of, welcoming, because how many years you have not been singing?
10 years.
And then you went to the stage and sang, and everything went perfect.
Yeah.
The mariachi, the synchronization, the whole thing,
good.
without even
practicing, rehearsing it.
Nothing. You just went like a little ping pong ball, go.
And I think I sent you that text message or WhatsApp. I remember I said, Mrs. Celia, thank you for giving me the chance to do this, because I remember how I used to feel back. And obviously, I mean, it's not like we're professional singers and we have a career, but it's something that in my case, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of amateur people think that way, it's something that fills me in. Like it's something that when you are on a stage and you're singing, I don't know how to put it in words, but you feel powerful, you feel you're someone else and you enjoy it, but at top. So I had even forgotten that.
Well, the good thing is you had to do it again this year.
Yeah. We were talking about that earlier. Like it feels like I'm going to have to renew the show this year again.
Well, you have so many fans.
Yeah.
Even some of the people who from the factory didn't went to the first festival.
Yes.
They said that they regret because they saw you in the social media and everything, and they said, "Oh my God, how we miss it."
I remember the day after that I was at a distillery, some women at the bottling, they were like, "This is you? What are you doing here? Why don't you have a career?"
Yeah.
But, in the end...
Maybe next time will be somebody there you will sign a contract.
Autographs.
Okay, don't forget where you came from.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Of course not.
So it's not something, behind the bottle is not some only tragedy or happiness. It is a lot of to go on, like a lot of implementing supply control chains, warehousing, producing, improving. It's not just money, it's efforts made to do things, which is, I think, is the most challenging part. What do you think about it?
When we think about innovation, ways to change things, you're right, said it. The best change you can implement, regardless technology, regardless anything that you can do, is having everyone in a whole team having the same mindset and going into the same direction. And for me, that was during the 2 years that I spent at the distillery. that was the biggest challenge because, like I was saying before, you can have your own challenges into your own department. But for example, maybe if you work for a quality area or liquids or production, whatever, you get so focused on your own problems in the department, and you want to be good at what you do, and you want to fix it. But sometimes you tend to forget that there is a client there for whom we are Casa Maestri, and we are all part of one thing. That I don't care if you had an issue with your machine or with your label or whatever. For me, I want this product on time. So I think the biggest challenge was definitely having everyone with the mindset of thinking, if I have a problem here and I also serve other areas to make sure there is an ultimate goal, I serve that area too, so we can all serve client. That kind of thinking not always is easy to get, from everybody in a company. And I would say, like I said at the beginning, that would be definitely, and that's what I experienced in Casa Maestri. The biggest challenge is to have everyone with the same mindset. It's
like playing a football. All we have to play in the same direction. Otherwise, if one of the team, may stay behind, things doesn't happen. Exactly. So it's a lot of challenges that we're going through.
Exactly.
Recently, you were promoted to manage one of the arms in Houston, which is so far in your first 2 conventions, how you feel it's a different world?
The song that comes, there's a song that comes to my mind from Aladdin, a whole new world, it's definitely different. I think the biggest, there are similarities, of course, with markets, but I would say here in the 2 conventions I have been attending to, is what I see is that it is, number one, you've kind of find a faster way to go to compete with the biggest ones. That's what I see, because if you're in a boat, differently from USA, that you have a lot of stores from a lot of retailers.
You mean a cruise?
On cruises, sorry,
yes.
Yeah. So on a cruise ship, you are trying to get into a bar or a store where you're going to be next to Clase Azul, Don Julio, that kind of brand. So number one, I see this is like a fastest track to, and it's not easy to go ahead and just compete with the biggest one just in 1 year or 2. I would say that was my first impression. And then number 2, I think obviously this market, the regular markets require a lot of creativity, but I would even say a little bit more here in the duty-free market, because these cruise ships also require you help them create something unique for them. So you need to be not only you put a lot of effort into what your brand represents, like we just discussed, but on top of that, you need to think on how you present it to customers on board. So you need to come up with things like we have done, like, for example, flyboards, or, like specific little cantaritos, the cups, the bottle, things that are actually appealing and really eye-catching for the customer. So I would say those are the 2 things that I have grasped from the 2 conventions I attended.
And plus, the prices are very low.
And that is the other part, because there is, you are in a constant exercise of how can I meet those pricing without, for me, still being profitable and not losing money, because, a lot of margins, a lot of things to take into consideration. And you are in that delicate line, like, is it a business, or I'm just losing money? So those are like the biggest challenges I've seen in these 2 conventions.
What everybody in the audience can see, what I'm doing myself is preparing a team behind me, behind the bottle, in case something happened to me. I hope it's not soon, but it's what I'm doing. It's not just presenting our brands, helping other people to do their brands and achieving their dreams. I'm preparing the company for the next generation. So which is, with Jose, that would be 3rd generation.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, I have a grandson, he's 21. So hopefully after he go to college and everything, he will say like Jose, well, I like this, but I better go to work with this. I'm hoping for that. Yeah. I never put pressure on anybody, but always I try to put a little seeds behind their ear. I think it will be a good experience.
And to your point, I think we're I'm gonna say it, we're lucky to have you as the leader, the guidance of this company, because there's a lot of experience. I remember when you said some point when I started, that distillers used to be your playground, right? When you were a child. So there's definitely a lot of experience there. And I have always said it. We go through life, we work for different companies, we have different bosses, different mentors, but a person that is willing to go beyond in terms of teaching you, in terms of, as you just said, preparing you. That is kind of like, I have always said that in a company, obviously everybody looks for the money, for the payment, but there are intangible things that not everyone sees. And I'm kind of grateful for the fact that I'm working in a company with Celia Maestri herself that is going beyond in terms of preparing us and giving us the best of her, but not only how to make a bottle or not only, but also how to see from her perspective, how to get ahead of things. And I think that's something you don't find like everywhere. And I'm very grateful for that. I say it in front of the audience. Thank you for that.
Instead of a Casa Maestri distillery, maybe we'll put a Casa Maestri college.
Yeah. It's a long way, but you graduate with honors in the end.
Correct. Well, besides all this, it's something that you wanted to tell the people about the whole industry, about tequila, even though I don't feel that it's down. I feel that it's stable.
Yeah.
But from your perspective, how you feel that the tequila is doing right now, industry is doing at this moment?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of articles, there are a lot of comments from a lot of people, especially here in the U.S., about how the tequila is doing today, right? I think it's very subjective how it's doing today in terms of, like I said before, when we had some kind of stability and some numbers well known before pandemic, and then pandemic came in and changed everything, right? And I do remember that after 1 or 2 years after the pandemic, we were still trying to struggle what's right and what's not, because basically it changed the whole thing.
I said, let's go back to 2019. Let's take it from there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, if we compare to how the market is today to after pandemic, we would go crazy and it would be a lot of subjective opinions. But if we compare the market today to before pandemic, the industry continues to grow, continues to be booming. And it's crazy because there are a lot of negativity sometimes or comments about, hey, this, I don't know, the market share went down this year, or there are a lot of points coming down. But we, in the field of talking to clients and helping realize their dreams, people are continuously all the time, and we see it in the conventions all around the world, in the cruise ships, everybody, people continue to think about projects. Hey, this is booming. Let's create this project here. Let's create this project there. So that kind of, regardless those numbers, which we not always know where the source comes from, I think as we are there in the face of the people, we see the industry not getting down, but the opposite. It's people want to get more creative. People want to keep on growing. People want to keep on making projects. So from my perspective, to be short, I don't think we are going down, like, the opposite. I think the industry is booming, not perhaps at a level that we say, wow, but it's raising, it's there, step by step, getting better and better numbers than what happened back in 2019.
So in reference of your major role with Total Wine and knowing that El Padrino, which I request a bottle for you.
Yeah.
That is your baby.
Yeah.
And I think it has something to say about El Padrino.
Yeah. So it's the number one. It's the biggest brand that we sell to one of our biggest retailers in the U.S., Total Wine and More, right? And it's a brand that has demonstrated a rapid growth, a tremendous success since we started, doing business with Total Wine. And as you can see, basically, I've always wondered from the client perspective, right? Like what attracts the people? Why people would buy this bottle? And
besides the quality.
Exactly. Because you go and you walk around the shelf, and we always think of the big guys, Patron, Diageo, and everything. But here you would find something that competes in that line, that has a more affordable price, and we know that it has quality, but it's definitely eye-catching. The fact that it has this neck here, the way
that
of
is
the
placed
cap.
by hand.
Exactly. That also, it's something, there is a story there because we have forces, workforce from Tequila Town that, makes everything
mainly are women.
Exactly. 90% women. So there is a story there, and you see this kind of, clean cut label, very fresh, natural, that kind of things. Apart from the great tequila that is in here, is definitely something that, it's on the raise, and people are kind of, buying it more and more. So
you can put it right there.
Yeah, the experience with El Padrino has been great, because I remember when we started And when I started working with Total Wine and More in 2022.
Well, we had it for years, but when you started.
From my perspective, when I started in 2022, I remember we were, let's say, like in 27, 28 SKUs approx. And right now we have around 35, 36 SKUs. So it's been growing. And not only with Blanco, Repo, and Añejo, which is, the main core, but the brand has diversified a lot. And obviously diversification means that the brand is being successful.
So be diversified in what?
Okay.
In what products?
So we had, when I got here, we had Blanco, Repo, Añejo, and we had flavors as well, different flavors. I remember when I started, creams were starting. That was the first year that we ever sold creams of El Padrino. It was chocolate, lime, coffee cream, vanilla chai, and original. And so creams have been doing so great during the last 2 years that this year we recently launched three new flavors. We launched strawberry, we launched churro. So there are different ones that have been coming on, and we are working on more flavors this year as well. So as you can see, people not only continue to buy the core ones, but there's more interest with the brand to continue diversifying.
Yeah, they're moving to what the market requires, which is the young generations like flavors.
Exactly. And I remember, I think it was 2 weeks ago, that I was in a Total Wine and More on the San Felipe street. I was there. We were doing some research. We were looking at our brands. And I remember this guy, he was walking by, and immediately he walked by, he saw El Padrino, he took a bottle. And I took advantage because I was with him. I was like, hey, hello. Oh, we make the bottle. We make the liquid. We make everything. So what do you think? And I remember literally he said, oh man, El Padrino is my brand. You can present me with any tequila, but I'm faithful to this one. And I always come for my bottle of El Padrino. Yeah. So it's very rewarding when you hear these kind of things. And that means that this baby that we have been working together, to make it thrive, it's on the rise. It's something that is doing very great. And I, on behalf of Casa Maestri, we have to be thankful with Total Wine and More. Total Wine and More has been, very faithful to this brand, has made a lot of efforts to put it, on top. And I want to take, the advantage to thank Total Wine and More for all the efforts made for this great brand, El Padrino de mi Tierra.
And for all above and below.
Exactly.
Thank you very much for being here and behind the bottle today. And we hope in the future we have a part 2 and your success in your new area, because I think it's important that people to know where we are, where we're going. And I appreciate that you are part of the team, and I see you here for many years to come.
That was the commitment. We discussed it from the beginning, and I see myself there too. Count on it.
Yes. And everybody who's watching Behind the Bottle, please continue seeing us, our next episode. And thank you very much for watching today. Have a great day.
That's it for today's episode. Thanks for listening to Behind the Bottle, Tequila Tales by Celia Maestri. The next story's already aging to perfection, so don't miss it. See you soon. Don't forget to follow us on social media and your favorite podcast listening platform.